Every time something racist happens to me, as a black woman attorney in court or around the courts, I'm going to say something because I'm really tired of it. Like, I'm so tired of it. I just want to do my job. This morning, I drove an hour and 15 minutes to court. I'm going to a court in a county that is not my home county. However, I have an Ohio law license, and that law license allows me to practice anywhere in the state that I want to. And so a client who resides in the county that my law office is at decided he wanted to retain our law firm, which is a smart choice. So I say, okay, no problem. Charge a little bit more because it's going to be a little bit further of a drive, not a big deal. Know how to handle these cases, handle them every single day. Fine. I get here, I check in. I call ahead of time, by the way, because you want to make sure that you know exactly what the court rules are, what the process is for turning in clients who have warrants. You just want to be confident in what you're doing because preparation is key. So I do that. I set it all up. Talk to pretrial services, everything good to go. They know we're coming. He's on the docket. I go in to check into the courtroom to basically say, hey, I'm here. I see a woman, the judge is already on the bench. So I see a lady in the courtroom handling the files. Literally, got the files open, is going through things, whatever. So I say, that seems like a person that knows what's going on and works here. So I shall ask her quietly, where do I check in? Maybe it's with you, maybe it's with someone else. I'm not sure, but you clearly have the court files, so let me check in here. I whisper, okay? I'm not loud, I'm not interrupting. I'm saying, excuse me, good morning. I'm attorney Leslie Jons. I'm here to check in for an arraignment. My client is here. And the judge says, stops court. She's addressing someone. She stops court. She says, are you okay? To the clerk. The clerk says, yeah. She says, do you know her? And the clerk says, well, no. Because you don't know me. She doesn't know me. Like, of course, no. And she's like, well, ma'am, have a seat. And I'm like, ma'am, have a seat. And so I say, well, just an attorney trying to check in. And I sit down. And she says, oh, well, the bailiff will come and help you. Okay. Like, that's literally what I was trying to accomplish. I was just going to ask her who I should check in with, but you didn't have to stop court. I just asked a question. And she said, I was just concerned. I was just scared because you were approaching the clerk. Scared. So before someone comes for me in the comments and says, well, maybe you didn't look like an attorney, because that's happened before when I posted these videos. I'm wearing a suit. This is a suit. I've got heels on and suit pants. So at that point, there's a courtroom full of people. So I am embarrassed and kind of mortified because I'm trying to process in real time what's happening. And so my mind is racing and I'm thinking, okay, whoa. Okay, so basically you thought that you didn't think that I was a lawyer. Let's just start there, okay? You did not think that I was a lawyer. You made the assumption that I was not. Although I had breached the back rows of where all of the defendants were sitting. I had breached that at that point and was like boldly, because the lawyers do, right? And so I had breached that point and I was already up there. So wow, that would be the audacity for someone who is not an attorney to do that. But then you didn't even like ask the bailiff to be like, hey, can you assist her? Like, figure out what's going on. I sit on the bench as a magistrate, and I do that. Someone comes in the courtroom and I'm on the bench and I'll just say to my bailiff, hey, check in, see what's going on with them. Like, do they need something? What's going on? Instead, you loudly accused me of being threatening towards a court staff Because why else? What do you mean? You were scared for her? What was I going to do? And so then I eventually get called. I eventually get called up. And wait. Because after that, I sit down, the bailiff comes to me, approaches me, hands me the files like, "Oh, yeah, hi. Thank you." I called ahead of time like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Cool. We'll call you next. I'll put your file up." The prosecutor calls about 10 more people before he calls me, after the bailiff had walked the file, put it in the pile right there. The prosecutor calls all these names and then says, at the end of calling all the names that no one answered to, calls my client's name and then says, "Well, they say that he has an attorney, but I don't see her." I'm sitting in the front row, right here. The bailiff just addressed me and handed you the file and said that we were ready. "What do you mean you don't see her?" "Oh, well, oh." And then, so I'm like, "Hello, right here." Then he says, "Oh, well, oh, I didn't recognize her." Okay. So I get up there, and before I go, the judge says, "Hey, one moment," to my client. I would like to talk to your lawyer." She calls me up to the bench and she apologizes profusely. And this is the situation that I'm put in because you've already humiliated me in front of a courtroom full of people and made me feel this big and like I am just some random lady here, which, by the way, you should also treat random ladies with respect. But you call me up in front of everyone to your bench and, like, I suppose try to whisper an apology because the whole room is listening and we're on the record, by the way. And I am supposed to receive it and accept it and move on because I now have to address the warrant that my client has for an offense of violence and make sure that he gets a personal bond. So I cannot say what I want to say to you in this moment because that could impact my client and also, I guess, my ability to practice in this courtroom. But I am highly upset and highly offended and humiliated. But I just have to turn it off and do my job. And that is what we call inherent bias. That is what we call microaggressions. That is what we call racism in the criminal justice system. And I just taught a class the other day on race in the criminal justice system and basically tried to explain to a class of first-year law students how even putting people of color in place in the justice system will not fix the issue because I am a Black woman in the justice system who's been in it for 11 years. And this happens to me still to this day, 11 years later, in 2026. Happy Black History Month.